Mr. Sandman is a feature-length film that we like to call a work of dark whimsy. Hello, my name is Chad. Together with my producing partner Timo, we've been developing Mr. Sandman for the past 6 years. To date, we've pitched to the American film market, we've secured Raven Banner as our sales agent, we've shot and produced a 5-part prequel series called Nightmares Manifest, and even produced an original song for the film. Timo and I have been making movies and working together for 15 years as a producer-director team, and it's our shared love of 80s and 90s classics that pull us together, and we just really love projects with practical effects and a lot of heart. My background is in illustration, props, and creature making, so in-camera effects come fairly natural to me, but we've also gathered together an amazing team of talents to help make our movies on tiny budgets with big-time production value. In collaboration with our key creatives, including the amazing monster maker and performer Mr. Keith Arbuthnot, we are more than capable of bringing this creature feature to life. Mr. Sandman is the story of a mother-daughter road trip down memory lane that turns into a nightmarish fight for survival as they team up with a group of former summer camp misfits to confront the author of their greatest fears. Basically, it's a story about surviving grief and reconciliation. Set in an abandoned summer camp with a small cast of colorful characters, 5 friends take on their nightmares and tailor-made manifestations of Mr. Sandman. Izzy, who is our protagonist, must solve a mystery to overcome the 5 stages of grief, which each one of the characters represents. The core of the movie is about the mother-daughter connection, and Izzy and her mom Olivia have a very strained relationship. And while they struggle to find comfort in each other's company, they tend to play opposite parent-child roles. The narrative is continually moved along by Olivia's attempts to reconnect with her daughter, and where better to do that than at summer camp. The vision for this film is to embrace a memory. We want it to feel like a trip back in time, nostalgic, give you the sense when things were a little bit simpler and, as a kid, a lot spookier. We'll also make heavy use of rain and fog for atmosphere, which is pretty easy to do in Squamish, BC. And the interior Flamingo Cabin is our one studio set, which features the most monster-heavy moments at the climax of the film. If someone mistakes Mr. Sandman for a sequel to The Poltergeist, then I know we've done our job. Death isn't exactly a light topic, but I also think we tend to hide from it a bit in our culture. It's either minimalized in action movies or exaggerated in horror films. What's real is that death is terrifying, but with time, it can also help us recognize how precious our relationships are. I lost my mom at age 14, and her 7-year battle with lung cancer was the toughest 8 years of my life. But what I've learned a little more recently is that it's really common for people to get stuck psychologically at an age of trauma.
By avoiding our deepest fears and denying our own pain, do we create the monsters?
Movies connect me to a time when my mom was still around to support my creative dreams, and I think it's what's at the root of Izzy and Olivia's dynamic. The sad realization that you're never going to know that person as well as they deserved. I don't think it was conscious, but I made the main character the child who was lost instead of the parent, because that's how I felt, and sometimes still do. So I've come to realize that Mr. Sandman is much more about my own struggle with grief than the desire to make a monster movie. Without my mom, my protector, my world suddenly became full of monsters, and the constant fear and anxiety around death became a part of my creative identity.
I'm here to take your soul.
After she was gone, I had to grow up real quick. I had to be a leader and a protector for my little sister, which I think is where Izzy's reluctant hero quality comes from. And that dramatic shift in awareness that life is short kind of made me fascinated with death and otherworldly things. And there's parts of us that we don't like to look at too deeply or too often. And I think that's what horror films, or quality films in any genre, do best. There are a lot of layers to explore in Mr. Sandman, and in these uncertain times when we've all had to face our mortality in more present ways, I think it's a story worth being told. So I hope that this soon-to-be 7-year journey will come to a close as we all try to accept who we are as a result of those who've loved us and learn to love a little more fully until the end.